exploring TikTok fame, geopolitical stances, and historical CIA interference in community dynamics.
And by calling everybody anti-Semitic.
And then
so to watch them
censorship
do,
laws.
and then, we're just going to pass censorship laws. We're 350
That'll
million
work.
of you are just not going to be able to say anything bad about Israel.
All you people that think that Jews control the world, you know what we'll do? We'll all pass laws that say you can't say that.
Right.
That'll teach them. Like, clearly these people have never taught young kids. When you teach young kids, you learn that you can't tell young kids, like, you can't do that double think with young people these days. They see right through it. And it only enhances their conviction and actually creates more real anti-Semitism, as well as just, basic noticing of facts.
There is that noticing of facts that's happening. I think this book here has done more damage than anything that you or I could ever say. And I actually wanted to bring up this book, Chaos, because they are totally chaos. But just to be clear for you guys that are watching us at home, it was a CIA operation. And they're doing it right now. So if you're wondering why all of these random accounts are suddenly saying that I'm funded by Qatar, I absolutely am not funded by Qatar. I'd like to be, by the way, Qatar, if you're watching, like, I'm not opposed to reading some ads for you. Like, it's totally fine because everybody else works with you, including Bibi Netanyahu, who's going through a Qatar trial right now, which is the rich irony of all of this. You're not funded by Qatar.
No, I'm not funded by anyone. I'm poor.
So this is amazing. So I was reading this because I do a book club here. The chaos was born out of LBJ's, the Chaos CIA program was born out of LBJ. So JFK gets shot. LBJ becomes president of the United States and just reverses course on everything that JFK was doing in terms of his foreign policy with Israel. And he's getting them weapons, he's getting them money, and he wants war. So we're right back in that circumstance where it's like war. We're talking about war with Iran. And then there were these natural student protests that were happening because people were against the Vietnam War. And LBJ didn't believe that these could be organic protests. He believed that if they needed to seed the public with this idea that these protests were actually a foreign infiltration. And so they began this Operation Chaos to discredit people by pretending that they were foreign operators. And that's exactly what they're doing to me, you, and Tucker right now. And it's just amazing. And I'm like, guys, this is like, you don't just randomly just say, Candace is funded by Qatar, Ian's funded by Qatar. They're all saying the same talking point, but while ignoring Bibi Netanyahu's trial for funding Qatar to give money to Hamas, which is incredible.
So damning in so many ways. And it's not to mention that, so Chaos is the one where they're like surveilling and targeting and smearing and libeling these protesters, but that's overlapped over COINTELPRO, which was instated by J. Edgar Hoover, more so, although COINTELPRO tactics are universal. But that's actually causing dissidents to fight each other, causing spreading rumors about Black Panthers sleeping with each other's wives, spreading, salacious details that may or may not be true about Martin Luther King or other things. And to be clear, a lot of the rumors about Martin Luther King were probably somewhat true, but just sowing division amongst the ranks and getting people to fight each other. And that was all enacted by J. Edgar Hoover, who was being blackmailed by the Jewish mob for his sexual perversions at the time. And so it's such a funny and tragic rewrite of the exact same history as rhyming all over again in so many ways.
The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. And I feel like we are right back in the 60s. And I want people to recognize that because I got a chill down my spine reading about the Black Panthers and COINTELPRO and recognizing that they infiltrated these groups because their biggest fear, and this was the entire thing behind the Charles Manson lie and pretending it was a race war that he wanted, was they were very fearful of Black nationalists and white liberals coming together. And I was sitting here going, oh my gosh, I have these beliefs, they're going through Black Panthers beliefs in this book. And they're like, they believed in the Second Amendment that you should defend yourself. They didn't trust the government. They believed in they needed to keep their families together. And they freaked out when people on the left began supporting them. They didn't want union. So they wanted to sow racial discord. And I think about why so many liberals hated me because they thought I was a self-hating Black person. And I'm going, guys, read this book. The CIA is doing this all over again, trying to discredit and trying to sow discord. And we really need to stay together right now.
100%. And it ties into the thing that initially brought us together in content was Diddy, is that once they saw how powerful these Black movements could be, because Black people have had such a bad go of it politically in those earlier days, especially. And then through the civil rights movement, they saw, oh my goodness, these people can really organize. These people can really project quality arguments and make a difference. we need to figure out, and I'm speculating a little bit as to the connections from A to B, but you wind up with Black culture being propped up by a whole bunch of blackmailers and really corrupt celebrities that are pulling strings in order to promote the most degenerate artists you could ever promote, in order to promote culture that is a direct pipeline to prison, which is basically used as slave labor today by all the biggest corporations like Starbucks, McDonald's, Verizon. Like you're calling your Verizon sales rep, and some of those calls are going into prisons to people that are getting paid like cents per hour. And so the way that the Black community has been undermined since the sort of 80s and 90s through rap music is a big part of it, is so tragic. And I think that the seeds are sowed in that time period of the Black Panthers being such a threat.
So after Ian Carroll and Candace Owens dropped their verbal bunker busters, tying together censorship, CIA psyops, and a censorship campaign cloaked in cries of anti-Semitism, you'd think maybe, just maybe, someone in power might say, hey, maybe suppressing speech isn't the best way to stop so-called hate. But no. Instead, they're revving up the censorship engine with the finesse of a steamroller on nitrous. Welcome to America 2.0, where disagreeing with a foreign government is rebranded as hate speech and laws are written to make sure you shut up about it. If you're confused, that's the point. This isn't about fighting bigotry. It's about building a digital blasphemy code where criticizing government policy equals heresy and big tech becomes the ministry of truth. So when Carroll and Owens mock the idea that criminalizing thought crimes will somehow eradicate anti-Semitism, they're not whining. They're spotlighting a government using identity politics like a legal crowbar to bash in the doors of public discourse. Say something they don't like about Israel's foreign policy. Congratulations, you're now an anti-Semite. Want to question where your tax dollars are going? Sit down, bigot. And if you think this is hyperbole, take a look at the rapidly multiplying censorship laws being passed faster than student loan interest spikes. Carroll references Operation Chaos, yes, the real CIA domestic surveillance op from the 60s, and it's not a throwaway. These people are connecting the dots between historical state overreach and the modern digital gulag. Operation Chaos, COINTELPRO, MKUltra. These aren't Alex Jones fever dreams. They're declassified programs that show your government has always been obsessed with narrative control. Back then, they spied, disrupted, and smeared dissenters. Today, they deplatform, demonetize, and digitally assassinate them. The difference? Back then, you had a file. Now you have a banned account. Owens isn't defending Holocaust deniers. She's calling out the weaponization of identity labels to crush critics of foreign policy. But nuance is now contraband, and silence is the only acceptable reply. Speaking of silence, let's talk about the Netanyahu-Qatar-Hamas triangle. Owens didn't invent this. It came straight out of Israeli media. Netanyahu's aides allegedly took cash from Qatar to help run PR campaigns, even while Qatar was playing middleman for Hamas. But when Owens points that out, she's the extremist. Meanwhile, Bibi floats above it all, clutching his pearls and screaming witch hunt like it's 2017. This isn't just hypocrisy, it's the playbook. Criticize the empire, label the critic anti-Semitic, pass censorship laws, protect state propaganda. It's not a bug, it's a feature. And here's the part they really don't want you to know. You're not crazy for noticing. You're not a tinfoil hat case for wondering why speech laws are being rammed through parliaments and congresses like Red Bull through a frat boy. You're just awake. Carroll and Owens are sounding the alarm on a machine that doesn't care about your passport or your politics. It cares that you stay in line. And when public figures like them get digitally executed for stepping out of bounds, it's not just about them, it's a message to you. So ask yourself, why is criticism of Israel being criminalized while actual war criminals chill at the UN like it's open mic night? Why are speech laws moving faster than budgets? Why do accusations of foreign influence conveniently forget the billions sloshing around DC from lobbyists and defense contractors? Leave a comment if you think freedom of speech is being obliterated under the guise of protecting feelings. If you're tired of being gaslit by government goons and their media meat puppets, Maybe it's time to stop watching the news and start reading declassified CIA docs. Buy a copy of Tom O'Neill's Chaos if you want the real education they hope you never find. Because today it's Candace. Tomorrow, it's you.